you don't fix that, if you don't heal that within yourself and you don't change that response, you are absolutely solidifying your future of either the relationship falling apart or it being completely unhappy. Now, to your point, it does take two. I tell so many people this. I'm like, I literally think like most relationships start as trauma bonds. Because like we're wound mates. We are literally attracted to people who will reveal wounds within us that aren't healed, that we didn't even know until we're with them. Now, the question is what you just said, is like, can you both grow together and grow separately? Can you be committed to, hey, I'm going to be the best version of myself and do whatever that takes for you? And can you do the same? And that's the difference between people who will live a life together and thrive versus the trauma bond that will just collapse, right?
Yeah, it ends up at the same outcome they've already lived many times before.
I was talking to a client recently. One of my favorite examples is that she and her husband could not talk about money. And she called me out of the blue and she was like, I have to get on the phone with you because I cannot have one more fight with my husband about money. And I was like, cool. So we get on the phone and she goes in this big long thing and I'm like, so it's only money? She goes, mainly, but I just, we've got to figure this out. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, how do you feel about conflict? And so immediately, like, we zone in on, like, that's the symptom. The money argument is this is how marriage and relationships work. You have a bigger issue that you are assigning a symptom, right? Like, you're just zeroing in on the symptom. And so I was like, so how do you feel about conflict? Well, she's like, absolutely horrible. Like, I can't stand it. I try to avoid it. I try to run from it at all cost. Like, I hate it. I'm like, okay. So then I asked her, I go like, well, think about your childhood. When was the last time, like, you remember, like, the earliest memory you have of experiencing childhood, like, conflict within the home? Like, what did that look like? And immediately she's like, yeah, I don't really recall conflict in the house. And I was like, all right, well, think about it some more. Like, you just got to dig on it, right? And I was like, think like sister, aunt, like uncle, like just whatever comes up. Because our minds they're not accidental, right? It'll, like, what needs to be brought up will be brought up. And so she stopped, like, dead in her tracks and was like, oh, I actually do remember. And I was like, okay. She goes, the only conflict I ever really remember experiencing was my mom and my dad, and they had this huge fight, and then my dad left and never came back. To not think about, right? Like, but that's also how our brain works, is it protects us from hurtful memories that we haven't properly processed in a safe space too, right? And so it wasn't until I brought that up that she was like, oh, and I was like, this doesn't have anything to do with money. Yeah, like, you guys struggle to have a conversation around something that is potential for conflict, and you can't handle that, right? And so all to say is, like, here's the thing. It's always a deeper issue than that. So why do people, sorry, that was a long example of, like you said, why do people choose the same type? And the divorce stats show this. Your likelihood of staying married goes down with every marriage after your first marriage.